think Colorado is a school, specifically a football school, on the rise. I see it continuing, in this being a more common trend that we're going to see them near the top 25 going forward.
I think so too. I definitely agree with that.
It's a desirable location, in my opinion, for college athletes.
Especially now. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah. I mean, also altitude. I mean, it's where Olympic people train for a reason.
Side note, I saw the Battle of the Network Stars, and they play at Pepperdine. Why doesn't more people play at Pepperdine? That is beautiful campus.
Well, because Pepperdine puts all their...
you went to Pepperdine.
They put all their time and effort into baseball and volleyball.
I'll tell you, it's right on the water. It's beautiful.
They're a huge baseball school.
Pepperdine.
Yeah. So let's continue on. Number 20, representing the Pac-12, Washington State Cougars. Number 19, representing the American Conference, South Florida Bulls. At number 18, representing the Southeastern Conference, Florida Gators. At number 17, representing the Mountain West, San Diego State. And at 16, representing the Pac-12, Stanford. The number 27 team that I would have had is Utah from the Pac-12. What are your thoughts about this?
I like the Utah choice. I think they could have made an argument for being in the top 25. I think they're an underrated team. I think they're a team that gets overshadowed by other teams in that particular area. So I don't think they get a lot of knowledge. Actually, this is part of yours that I agreed with. I'm actually not very sold on Washington State. I think they're a little overrated. I think they will be able to get exposed. I think they benefited from being in what was a weaker Pac-12 last year as far as what they had to compete against. I just didn't see their talent and where it is now being a competitor. I do agree with South Florida. I think they're exactly where they should be in your ranking. Same thing with the Florida Gators, although I would not be surprised to watch them spiral this year.
Downward?
Yes.
I thought that at first before I did this and reworked my rankings, but I have enough faith in Malik Zaire that
that's what it comes down to.
That I don't think he's going to lose games for them, like Luke Del Rio did.
Depending on how Zaire plays, that's the argument. That's where Florida either makes or breaks their season. So I think putting them at 18 right now is a fair assessment because they could go either way. San Diego State, I can't accept them being that high. I think they should have been more towards the end of the list, if not an honorable mention. It's just I can't. I don't know. I can't. Given what they're competing against, it's just not comparable to me.
I'll tell you why I have them as high as I do. And really, it's a running back, Rashad Penny. He is just absolutely incredible. He is like a smaller Saquon Barkley. Instead of running you over, he's going to outrun you. He will be in the Heisman Trophy talks. He's not going to win it, I don't think. No. If Donnell Pumphrey didn't win it, he's not going to win it. But he's going to be just as productive as Donnell Pumphrey. And in fact, in a couple of games last season, he outshined Donnell Pumphrey. Couple that with the fact that the Mountain West is a down conference right now, and also the fact that they're returning a majority of their players. That's that chemistry, and I just think that with a running back and a quarterback who can sling it, they're poised for great things, and they're going to have an inflated record because they play against teams like Colorado State. They play against Hawaii. They play against San Jose State. So they're going to play some really bad teams, and that's going to help them.
That may be the case. I just don't... I feel like they're going to get beat somewhere around the line, and I think their results are going to be inflated, and I have no doubt that they'll get the attention. This kid will be able to run over most of who he faces. It's just their strength of schedule makes it hard for me to even foresee a way that even when the season would be ending, they're much higher than where they are now.
I could see them cracking the top 15.
That's the best I can give them.
Yeah.
Best.
I mean, unless they go undefeated and, put up gaudy
and
numbers.
force that argument that Western Michigan had last
year.
Yeah.
The Mountain West has a better conference prestige than the MAC does.
Well,
especially with Boise State, Nevada, and the history that they've got in the high level of play. BYU used to be in the Mountain West. So they have a great history, and they will take that into account. One thing that you had mentioned, Washington State, I will tell you why Washington State belongs in the top 25. They have a quarterback who is a Heisman hopeful named Luke Falk, who's going to be drafted in the top 20 of next year's draft. They have a coach who is known for developing quarterbacks at Texas Tech, and that's Mike Leach. So you put a quarterback who likes to throw but also plays pro style and couple him with probably the best quarterbacks coach in the history of college football, that's going to get you very far, especially when you're playing in the Pac-12 and you're putting up numbers against USC, against Washington. They're going to be a surprise. You watch.
I think they can be a surprise. I think the talent in the Pac-12 this year is going to be more than they can hold on to, because I understand having a great quarterback can drive the engine, but they still are going to have to get it across the finish line. And I don't know if they will have enough talent to be able to do that in a surprisingly talented Pac-12 this year, because there are some underrated teams from last year coming into this year that are going to be surprises to a lot of the country, I think.
And then South Florida Bulls. Did you guys happen to look at their schedule for next season?
No.
Okay, so I was looking at it. I don't see them losing a game. Not a single game. They're favored to win in every game, and the closest, like the ESPN percentage thing gives them, is a 63-37 over Temple. So there are 5 games in which they are 98% favored or above.
Jesus.
In FBS. That's not including their game against Stony Brook.
Wow.
Which we all know is going to happen because Stony Brook sucks.
Yeah.
All right. So no one has anything to say about Stanford. We all agree 16 is decent for Stanford.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see. I want to see how they bounce back after losing McCaffrey.
Yeah. I mean, they played really well the times he was hurt, and in the bowl game.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think, not that they're not going to miss him, but I think they're going to be productive without him.
They always seem to be kind of hanging right around on the hunt. I mean, it's a good team.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get above 15 at all this season, honestly. But I think for starting the season, 16 is where they belong. All right, so now we get 15 U.S. Why am I saying USC? SEC representative Auburn Tigers, 14 SEC representative LSU Tigers, 13 ACC representative Louisville Cardinals, at 12, and this is probably the biggest drop that I have besides who's going to be the honorable mention, number 28 team. At 12, you have the Big Ten representative Michigan Wolverines. At number 11, and the final of this group of 5, you have the SEC representative Georgia Bulldogs, and my number 28 team is the Western Michigan Broncos. All right, so this grouping, what do you guys think of this one? Because I feel like this one's probably, other than,
I feel for the last few years the LSU Tigers have underperformed, and I think they're going to drop.
I don't think so, because I have more faith in Darius Geis than I had in Leonard Fournette.
I can agree with that.
Because Leonard Fournette, he was unstable up top, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, but I mean, the coaching is different now. It's not the same team that we've been used to for the last 10 years.
Yeah, no. Do you guys have problems with any of those 5? Auburn, LSU, Louisville?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Michigan, Georgia?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay. What's your...
could be higher, too.
There are 3 that I think you undervalued and undersold here. Georgia is one of them. I think Georgia's actually a top 5 team. I think they're extremely undervalued, and I think they have a lot of talent on their team.
I hope he says it.
Across the board, whether offense, defense, I think they're going to be a surprise as far as a team that's been rebuilding. The team I will not mention is exactly where they should be, if not off the list.
What? Oh, come on. Come on, be a realist.
Too much loss. Too much lost on one team. Not to mention, they still don't know what's going on at quarterback. You're not
Seriously.
putting Korn
He went
back
to
in
Rome.
the game. You're not putting Korn back in the
He
game.
brought them
Did
to
you
see the
see how
Pope.
badly he played last year? That's not happening.
Well, I will say the quarterback battle is going to go to Wilton Spate.
Yeah.
he will be the starter when he's healthy.
But even that doesn't give me confidence, especially when playing in a Big Ten. That's not enough.
Losing 5 starters is tough. Losing 6 starters is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Losing 17 is unheard of. So I think Michigan will be competitive. I will give them 8 to 9 wins this season, but they're not.
They're not the team they were last year.
They are not the team they were last year.
But
especially when you lose Jordan Lewis, especially when you lose Taco Charlton, when you lose
Jake
Butt, when you lose Jabril Peppers, who is the only defensive player. No, he wasn't the only one. When he was the only defensive back, we'll go with that, who was mentioned in the Heisman talk all season.
He played so many different positions, though. And
yeah. But that's a lot to lose.
I think you're underestimating, too. I think everyone is underestimating what kind of players would want to play for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan.
And that may be the case, but I'm not willing to say that the talent coming in from high school to now can, one, make up for what went out the door at those 17 players who have been there for multiple years, and two, be ready to compete against the likes of people who are on Ohio State or Penn State or Wisconsin who have been there for 4 years.
Saquon Barkley
is 17 against 22-year-olds.
Let me just say, this is not me being a Penn State fan. This is me being a college football fan and someone who likes to speak not with my heart but with my head. Saquon Barkley goes for 225 on Michigan this year. He runs for 225 yards and at least 2 touchdowns against Michigan.
We'll see. Michigan, I believe, in your list is positioned where they should be right now. What kind of team and product they put on the field will determine whether or not they deserve to be higher or they were who we thought they were going to be and struggled.
We'll see week 1. They play Florida.
I mean, all of this is...
Well, it's all subjective, because nothing's been played or anything of that nature. But I think right now, with so many pieces needed to be replaced, Michigan deserves the respect to be up there near the top 10. But I don't know that we can for sure say that they deserve a spot in there. Louisville, I think, should be higher, personally.
Here's why.
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson is keeping them in the top 20.
I don't care. Lamar Jackson is all you need.
No, they lost to Duke last season, and they lost good players.
They lost big games.
Okay, they beat a Florida State who was trying to find
Duke
who they were.
was actually really good last year, surprisingly, for a school that's a basketball team.
Duke was 4-8 and went 1-7 in conference.
Yeah,
that one win was against Louisville.
That's impressive for Duke. We're talking about Duke here.
Listen, Louisville belongs in the top 20, not in the top 10. Lamar Jackson probably going to win the Heisman again this year, unless teams can figure him out.
I imagine during football season on Cameron's campus that people were like, "Oh, did you hear we won?" And people respond with, "We don't play basketball yet."
So where do you think Lamar Jackson goes in the draft?
I think Lamar Jackson goes 3rd round. I don't think he's going to go in the 1st round unless he wins another Heisman and takes Louisville to the playoff.
I also have higher faith in Auburn. I think Auburn is going to be somebody that shocks Alabama this year. I think the second year for Jarrett Stidham, the Baylor transfer, will make him more comfortable. He showed he had a good arm and decent accuracy his first year, not really knowing the system. That and his increased productivity, or you hope his increased output, will also allow the way for Pettyway and Carrion to be able to run the ball with a 1-2 punch that Auburn has that I think is being overlooked.
Do you remember how many points Auburn scored against LSU last season?
No.
It was 18. Do you remember how many of those points came from touchdowns, either offensively or defensively?
None.
It was 0. They were led on 6 field goals to beat LSU. Yeah. That's why I can't put them in my top 25. They can't score a touchdown, and LSU's defense wasn't that great.
Is the pinnacle when it comes to defensive playing football.
Well, you're right.
It's the way that they go about it, and nothing is going to be perfect in any given scenario. That being said, Auburn has been notorious for being able to shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, we've known this. Auburn has had a great history of doing it.
I also have very, very, very little faith in Baylor quarterbacks. Very little faith.
Wow. You can blame RG3 for that.
RG3, Bryce Petty. You know, I don't think Jared
I
Stidham's
can
going to be that
understand why
good.
he left. I mean, especially with all the allegations that get flown around at Baylor.
Yeah.
Going to Baylor is like asking to be accused and on trial.